wanted to ask you about one of the things that I talked to somebody the other day about was on the whole private land, public land debate. Um, Obviously, we are all public land advocates because without public land, hunting basically dies,
It
right?
does.
It's a really not, and it's not just for hunting. Recreation outside is very hard to come by. If for those of you who've lived in states where there's not a lot of public land, like I lived in California for a while, down in the North Bay, there's very little public land. And so like even going out to hike on a trail or just get outside, you basically are limited to if you have access to a private property or you go to a park, right? Or you live in like the great state of Idaho or Montana where there's trailheads around every corner and there's millions of acres of public land. It's very, very important that we protect that. But also at the same time, I don't think it's very helpful to bash private landowners. And I think more people need to realize that private land is just as important as public land. You need both. And here's my argument why, and I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, okay? One of the reasons why, beyond, there's a multitude of reasons, but specifically for hunting, let's talk about that, is because no matter if they want to admit it or not, most people that are hunting on public land choose to hunt just by coincidence right behind big ranches. Do you know why they do that? They do that because a lot of times bulls can get older. They have better winter range. They have safety and security on private land. And some of the best habitat is also on private land. Like, let's not kid ourselves. There's good habitat on both. But the reality is like a lot of the animals we are hunting at some point in the year use private land too as part of whether it's their migratory route or their winter ground or their summer ground, whatever it is. Like, I just think they're both important. And I think it's very unhelpful for this like hardcore public land guy to be bashing the guy that just wants to raise cattle. Like, they both have issues they need to work on, and it's just like anything else, like Republican, Democrat, whatever, black and white. It's not that easy, right? Is
Yeah.
my hypothesis wrong?
No, they're both, highly important. And I think that the nice thing about private land is it's not strapped down in bureaucracy for how it can be managed. And I think a lot of times our public lands get abused, get mismanaged, get undermanaged, just because of them being run by a government.
Mm-hmm.
And you get private land that's not, and they can choose to manage it in a way that can be beneficial for wildlife. But and I think that there's the people who look at private land and say, well, I'm a public land hunter. It'd sure be nice to be able to hunt private land. If I did, I'd kill big elk every year.
Mm.
I've hunted on private land. I've never, not for myself
Yeah.
necessarily, but I've been on hunts on private land. And some of those I have left private land to go look for public land because the hunting was so bad on private. So it's not a matter of being private or public. There's absolutely some advantages on some private lands where the animals are less pressured, where there's a higher density of the animals there, and it might make hunting, I won't say easier. It might give you more opportunities for
Mm.
success there. But I hear all the time, oh, he shot it on private land, so it doesn't really count. It's different. If he had a shot it on public land, that'd be a big bull. But for private land, it's just, doesn't really matter. It's
I
almost like
still haven't met anybody that says those things that would turn down an offer to go hunt on some of those ranches.
yeah. And I'm in that, I'm 100% a public land elk hunter, for myself. Um, But that doesn't mean that I don't daydream about, when I'm on public land, I'm not sitting there going, we haven't heard an elk bugle for 2 days. It'd sure be nice to be somewhere where they're
Right.
managed a little better. And I'll go. There's no doubt in my mind. I will hunt elk on private land at some point. And it's not because I haven't been offered to. I've turned down some pretty amazing offers to hunt elk on private land. But my focus right now is on showing people, hopefully inspiring people, that it can be done on public land, that this is a
Mm.
resource we have to protect, that this is something that is important. And if we all start just looking for the easy way out and going to private land, as our escape from the challenges of hunting on
Right.
public land, we're going to lose that. And so it's so important to to be motivated to keep what we have and to find success
I,
on that
I,
platform.
I am not 100% public land hunter. I hunt on both. By nature of where I live in Oregon, especially now, a lot of times you're hunting private timberland, and
Totally.
a lot of the private timberland is closed to the public. A lot of it's also open to the public, usually walk in. But most of the mountains to the west of me on the Coast Range, there's some national forest and BLM, but a lot of it's owned by Weyerhaeuser or what other private timber companies. So you have to get permission. So I still consider that private land that has public access, but I've hunted on ranches that were amazing that I can't even begin to explain how amazing they were. But I've also had the best experiences of my life elk hunting on public land. And like you said, Corey, I mean, even when you came out to Oregon, we were hunting on publicly accessible private land part of the time, and then a national forest part of the time. We had better hunting on the national forest, or at
Yep.
least you had better hunting on the national forest. I think I had by that time stabbed my leg, but um, that's a whole nother podcast.
I wasn't even going to bring that up.
I just think, I'm just kind of tired of how everything is so black and white today. And I'm I'm just as much of a public land advocate as anybody in my private life. I'm not like out there like I'm not beating down Congress's door, and I appreciate there's people that do that. Like I don't do that. I should do more of that. But I do believe in public land and I do believe in private land, and I think that's okay. Just like I'm willing to have a podcast with a Democrat when I consider myself a Republican. I think it's pretty important that we kind of work together on specifically this issue. Um, so we keep our public lands, but we also don't piss off private landowners so much that they just want to buy all the public land, because that's what some of them want to do that. Like, I mean, so I just think it's a fun topic to talk about. It's controversial to some. I think it's just a conversation worth having.
Yep.